students, welcome back to yet another video lecture of High Point, and this is about I.A. Richards. Okay, so I.A. Richards belongs to the literary group or theoretical group known as New Criticism, and he is one of the key figures of this school of literary criticism. And about his major concepts, major works and key terms that he contributed into this particular school of literary criticism, that's what we are going to learn about. And if you are looking for some online study material which are systematically arranged and simplified, at the same time affordable, then you can go and visit my website www.highpoint.in, in which we have shared some amazing courses for you, along with 900 plus audio lectures, 300 plus PDF materials, and more than 3000 questions for you to attempt live in the website and know your marks and progress instantly. So these PDFs are downloadable, and you can come back to these materials as many times as possible, as far as you are a student of our course. Okay, so not only this, so along with the access to these amount of materials, you will get 2 bonuses from us if you are joining to our courses with the 15% of off that we are offering there on the website. What are the 2 bonuses? The first one is a weekly test going on in every Saturdays. The second bonus is that you will get a personalized study guideline, and we will revise this personalized study guideline according to your progress in your studies. Okay, if you want to know more about the courses or the offer or the bonuses that we are providing, you can directly message me in this number or message me on my Instagram page as well. We will be glad to provide all the details that you need to know. Okay, anyway, so this video is about I.A. Richards. Let's have an introductory section about him. So Ivor Armstrong I.A. Richards, that is the expansion of I.A. Richards. Full name of I.A. Richards, Ivor Armstrong Richards, is considered as one of the founders of the school of interpretation known as New Criticism. So in the previous video, we have seen about another important critic in New Criticism, who was that John Crow Ransom. But I.A. Richardson is more famous than him in New Criticism, and he is also one of the major founders of the school of interpretation known as New Criticism. Along with Charles K. Ogden, Richards created a simplified language called Basic English, which consisted of a primary vocabulary of 850 words. See, mainly other than New Criticism, his concepts that he produced for New Criticism, he actually, along with Charles K. Ogden, he created a simplified language called Basic English. Actually, the students, those who are not native speakers of English, they can follow this simple basic English language system in order to acquire English knowledge. Okay, and this basic English consisted of primary vocabulary of approximately 850 words, and he believed a universally intelligible language would help to bring about international understanding. So he also believed that that if there is a universally intelligible language that is provided to everyone, then it will more or less bring more international understanding between people, between nations, and also keeping that in mind only, he created Basic English with Charles K. Ogden. His concept of practical criticism is often thought of an beginning of modern literary criticism. We can see he came up with a work known as practical criticism, and this concept of practical criticism is often considered as the beginning of modern literary criticism. And New Criticism is also a formalist criticism of especially the genre poetry, but his concept of practical criticism is considered as the beginning of modern literary criticism. Now let's see major concepts. So his first major concept is 4 kinds of meaning. He says that inside a work of art, especially in a poetry, there you can find 4 kinds of meaning, and a kind of good balance between these 4 meanings actually brings about great beauty in a work. He points out the difficulty in arriving at a universal meaning. He suggests that there are several kinds of meanings, that is, the total meaning is the blend of these meanings. So you cannot arrive at a universal kind of meaning in a poetry or in a work of art. There are different kinds of meanings. So I.A. Richardson So I.A. Richards actually pointed out this difficulty in arriving at a soul, a universal, an ultimate meaning for a work, right? See how slowly they are moving towards structuralism, how they are slowly moving towards deconstruction. Okay, so it's difficult to arrive at a particular or at a universal or an ultimate meaning or a singular meaning that that is not easy to arrive at. So he suggests that there are several types and kinds of meaning are there. So a total meaning is the combination and blend of these meanings. So how well these meanings are blended together, how that far this work is beautiful, that far this work is meaningful. Okay, so these are the 4 kinds of meanings. First one is sense, second one is feeling, third one is tone, and fourth one is intention. Sense is what is said, the item referred by the writer. See, so what was the writer telling? Okay, so what is said by an author in a work, so that is the sense. Okay, the next one is feeling. Feeling is emotion, attitude, interest, will, desire, etc. towards what is being said. So in a poetry, it is not that you are given some facts and things just like that. There will be some emotion, some attitude, some interest, some will, some desire is always associated to what is being said. So that is feeling. The third one is tone. Tone is attitude towards the audience or reader. So how this, with what attitude, with what tone, these emotions about what is said is presented. Okay, so that is tone. So sense is there, sense is what is said in a work. Feeling is with what emotion that the writer has said about that thing. And okay, so what emotion is associated to what is being said in a work. Tone is what is the attitude towards the audience or the reader that the author or the work possesses. The fourth one is intention, the writer's conscious unconscious aim or the effect that he or she is trying to produce. So intention is there will be always, since the writer is writing the work and what is said in a work, it is a construction by the writer according to new criticism. Okay, there are some conflicting and contradicting ideas always there, but intention is that what is the intention of the writer, or conscious or unconscious aim or purpose or the effect that he or she is trying to produce after saying what she has already said in a work of art with some sort of feelings and with some sort of tone. Okay, so these are the 4 types of meaning: sense, feeling, tone, intention. So if you want to know more about it, you can obviously ask for it in the comment section. He concludes that in our use of language, one of the functions become predominant, and that the subject and intention determines the priority and degree of the use of other functions. So he says that, see, it's like you cannot bring about all these meanings together like everyone in equal sense, but 1 or 2 functions will be always predominant, that the subject and intention, according to the subject and intention of the author, it can vary. These 4 meanings, these 4 functions, or these 4 things that we can find in a work can vary. So according to the subject, what the writer is going to say and what is the purpose of the writer, the priorities will change, the meanings will change, and the degree of usage of these meanings will also change. The next concept that he gave emphasis was that close reading. Richards is best known for advancing close reading of literature, for articulating the theoretical principles upon which these skills lead to practical criticism. So he says that he is best known for advancing close reading or advocating close reading. He is a major proponent of close reading in new criticism in literature, for articulating a theoretical principles upon which these skills lead to practical criticism. Close reading is a skill, and that skill will lead to practical criticism. So the skill of close reading of a literary piece of work, it will lead to create theoretical principles. Using this skill, and that will lead to practical criticism. And it is a method that increases the reader's analytical powers. So when you read close reading, when you read a work very closely, that when you exercise close reading inside a work, that will increase the readers or the critics or those who are analyzing the work, their analytical powers will get increased because of close reading. The next concept by I.A. Richards is basic English. So he developed it with C.K. Ogden, like I said in the introductory part, and he took this basic English concept to China when he visiting there as a professor at Tsinghua University. So his concept was brought to China by him when he was visiting, when he was a visiting professor at the University of Tsinghua University. Okay. Now, what is the conclusion that made by I.A. Richardson? His conclusion was that as a student of psychology and philosophy along with the literary forms, Richards concludes that poetry performs a therapeutic functions by coordinating a variety of human impulses into an aesthetic whole, helping both the writer and the reader maintain their psychological well-being. So he proposed 4 types of meaning. He proposed close reading. He proposed basic English, and he brought about the thing known as brought about a work or concept known as practical criticism, which was nourished by close reading and all. So he was also studying psychology simultaneously. According, he was not only involved in new criticism, but he also was a student of psychology. So culminating these ideas from philosophy and psychology, Richards concludes that poetry has a therapeutic function to perform, and it actually functions by coordinating. See, this therapeutic performance or therapeutic function of poetry is functioning by coordinating a variety of human impulses into an aesthetic whole. See, that is the major power of poetry. So the power of poetry, the therapeutic function of poetry is carried out by coordinating a variety of human impulses, instincts or emotions into an aesthetic whole, helping. So this coordination of variety of human impulses into an aesthetic whole, this process will help both the writer and the reader to maintain their psychological well-being. So that's how poetry has a therapeutic function to perform. That's actually poetry is doing, coordinating a variety of human impulses into an aesthetic whole. So by doing so, it actually helps the readers as well as the writers to maintain their psychological well-being. So that was his conclusion as a student of psychology and philosophy, and also a literary criticism. Now let's see some major text by I.A. Richards and some details related to them. First one is the meaning of meaning. See, this is not his first work, but this is his first major work. Okay, the meaning of meaning, which was published in the year 1923, and he brought about this work with C.K. Ogden. Okay, the meaning of meaning by I.A. Richards and C.K. Ogden in the year 1923. It's his pioneer works on semantics. So this meaning of meaning, this text is a pioneer work on semantics. Next one is Principles of Literary Criticism. Do remember these titles, okay? This is very important. Principles of Literary Criticism came out in 1924. The third work is Science and Poetry, came out in the year 1926. But this work, the title got revised and the work got revised as Poetries and Sciences in 1970. The next work by I.A. Richards is the very famous work by him, which is titled as Practical Criticism, and it was published in the year 1929. And this work analyzed the self-reported interpretative work of students. He actually carried out a experiment with undergraduate students at Cambridge University. He removed authorial and contextual information from some poems, including one by Longfellow, and then he assigned their interpretation to undergraduates at Cambridge University. So basically what he was doing, he removed all the authorial and contextual information associated to some poems. Actually, mainly 4 poems he selected, and one among them was written by Longfellow. Longfellow is a very famous poet. So he actually removed, when he gave these poems to the students, he didn't say that these poems are written by so and so poets and these are the context in which these works were written. Okay, so by removing that authorial and contextual information, he gave actually 4 poems to his students, undergraduate students at Cambridge University, and he asked them to interpret this poem. So they were denied of any authorial information and contextual information though. So their main focus will be on the poem itself. So the interpretations done by the students were tremendous because they don't know the authorial or the contextual information. So variety of interpretations were done by the students. So this experiment that he did himself with the students, he reported this work in his book known as Practical Criticism. This approach showed how otherwise intelligent college students misread the poem. So he gave these students, so if Cambridge University students means that they will be above average anyway. So the approach, this particular experiment actually showed that how otherwise intelligent college students, they were misreading some poems. His concept of practical criticism led to the concept of close reading. So the thing that he wanted to establish here is that, see, we are actually interpreting certain works in a certain way, not because we are interpreting the exact work in that way, because we know some knowledge about the author, because we know some contextual information or extra textual information about that particular works. That's the main reason we are interpreting certain works in certain ways. So if you know that this is written by Shakespeare, you will give utmost veneration to that work, right? Because Shakespeare has written tremendous works. So you will approach that work in that way by keeping that thing in your mind. But when you don't know the author or the contextual information, then what you have the poem only. But even though you know the author or the context, what you have the poem only. You have to read it closely. Okay, so his concept of practical criticism led to the concept of close reading. So practical criticism will be nourished, and as a skill it will be increased among the readers when you avoid all the kind of authorial and contextual information from the work of arts and you close read the work. Okay, so in order to establish that point, he made this experiment with his undergraduate students at Cambridge University. The next works are Mencius on the Mind in the year 1932, then Coleridge on Imagination came out in 1934, The Philosophy of Rhetoric in the year 1936, Speculative Instruments in 1955, then Beyond in 1974, Poetries in the year 1974, and Complementarities in the year 1976. So I'll read it once again. Read with me. The Meaning of Meaning, The Principles of Literary Criticism, Science and Poetry, Practical Criticism, then comes Mencius on the Mind, Coleridge on Imagination, The Philosophy of Rhetoric, Speculative Instruments, Beyond, Poetries, and Complementarities. Okay, so that's all about I.A. Richards. If you want to have elaborate lecture series related to any of the theoreticians of any of these schools of literary theories and criticism, you can definitely refer to my website known as www.highpoint.in. After logging to your account and having the free trial, you can see that whatever we have provided there in the website, and also you can WhatsApp me or call me in this given number if you want to know more anything related to the course NTA, UGC, NET, JRF, English Language and Literature, or anything regard to the offers and materials that we are providing there. And also in YouTube as well as on Instagram, we are providing lot of free materials, different kinds of free materials, not the same in both the platforms. So different kinds of study materials in these platforms. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are interested, and you can follow me on Instagram if you want to have this entire pool of free materials available in this platform. So that's all about it. Meet you in the next video session. Until then, stay tuned to High Point and have a happy life. Tata.